Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes here. We're just going to let some people continue to join the call. Let us know where you are joining from while we wait. As Erin says, yeah, let us know where you're tuning in from. For those of you who are US based, thanks for joining just before the holiday weekend. We appreciate it. San Antonio, Texas. Charlotte, North Carolina. How are you guys doing? Did you guys get hit by anything recently? Any hurricanes? I feel like the South and the East Coast are really struggling right now. Philly, how are you? Oh gosh, I know Philly's not doing well right now with the hurricane. Not really here. North Carolina, a lot of South today. I love Durham. Durham is lovely. They have great farmers markets down there. And the food. The food is really good too. I spent a couple days down there once. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. This one was a rough hurricane season for I'm PA, but I'm north, so we just got some river flooding, but nothing like what you guys are experiencing down there. Oh, I'm sorry, Emily. It's kind of a rough start to the Labor Day weekend, right? But hopefully things improve for you guys. Alrighty, we'll just give it one more minute. I know it's 3:30 now, and then we will get started. I'm really excited for this chat today. I love talking like business strategy for designers because we all have to put on that hat, even though it's maybe not our preference, right? We have to be businessmen and women, even though all we want to do is design. So hopefully you guys get some good information today. And feel free to, if anything that I bring up, if you have other ideas, be sure to, talk about it in the chat box and share with everybody. We really want to build a community where we're supporting each other as business owners as well. Alrighty, so it's 3:31. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar, we are talking about how to make money with 3D rendering. That's me. Do make sure to follow us on our social media pages. Definitely check out our Instagram. We're constantly posting new tips and just inspiration in the form of renders. We love to share work by all of you who are using the software. So definitely give us a follow and tag us if you're posting renders yourself on your Instagram page. Alrighty, so, I think I skipped ahead once. Oh, goodness. There we go. Alrighty, so the takeaways from today's webinar. First, we're going to talk about cutting costs. Before we start making money, we want to make sure that we're not spending money unnecessarily. So I'm going to quickly go over how Foyr Neo helps you save money. Then we're going to jump into the money-making part of the conversation. We're going to talk about how you can structure your design services and your pricing to include 3D renderings in a few different ways. Then probably my favorite part about this conversation is the 3 ways that you can make money with 3D renderings outside of your interior design services. And then lastly, we're going to close it off with the benefits of e-design before we open it up to a Q&A. So any questions that pop up as we're going along, make sure to add those in the Q&A and we'll get to those at the end. Alrighty. First, we're cutting costs. So by decreasing the amount of money that you spend on multiple design programs, and the amount of design programs that you're using, you're cutting your costs. So in Foyr Neo, of course, I'm going to recommend Foyr Neo. We can draw out our floor plans, either custom, we can upload floor plans that we already have, we can design and customize in 3D, we can import furniture models, we can build our own, and then we can render and generate interactive walkthroughs in a matter of minutes, all in one software. So from start to finish, we're incorporating the entire design experience, right? Not just from the designer's perspective, but also from the customer's perspective, from the client's perspective. So that's number one. And for some context there on the pricing, if you were to pay annually for the standard plan, right? We have basic, standard, and premium. If you pay annually for the standard plan, that breaks down to $49 per month, which is the same cost for the basic plan, which is monthly, but with all of the services and features that you would get in the premium plan. So it's a really nice deal for you guys if you haven't explored that. If you're on the basic and want to experience the entirety of what Foyr has to offer, do check that out on our website. Second is time is money. We all know this, right? So when we're saving time, we're saving money, and Foyr does this for you in two different ways. The first is that it has the smallest learning curve of any software on the market. And I can speak to this myself. I'm sure many of you can as well. I tried several different software trying to teach myself at home how to use several different software, and it was incredibly frustrating before I happened to find Foyr Neo as an Instagram post one day. Started with the company as a customer myself, taught myself, and 3 months later was working for the company as an expert of the software. So the less time that you spend learning just how to work a software, the more time you spend designing, the more time you spend bringing in money. Number two is that the software renders your projects in a matter of minutes rather than hours. So if you've used other rendering software, you know it can take 4 to 5 hours sometimes for a single render to generate, and it holds up the software in the process so you can't continue to work. Foyr Neo renders in minutes, and you can, as soon as you press submit, you can navigate back to 2D, 3D mode, or you can continue to structure new views in render mode and then immediately start rendering those as well. And it can render multiple renders simultaneously rather than just one at a time. So again, a huge time saver so that you can spend more time designing and less time waiting and learning. Okay. That's my sales pitch. I'm done. Now we're going to talk about using Foyr to make money. So let's talk about how you can structure your design packages or build this into your cost. Number one is that we're going to add 3D renders as its own line item that clients can add. So an a la carte, right? This, I think, is a really nice way. So for those of you who maybe you offer hand sketches or mood boards, flat lays, whatever it may be, right now, and you're on the fence about whether or not you want to commit to offering 3D renders as a part of your services as like a standard practice. This is a really nice way to kind of feel out your clientele to see how interested they are in the service. So adding it as a line item, see how many people are going, oh, you know what, I think I do want to get the visual, because they don't have the vision that you have, right? So this is a benefit to them. If lots of people keep adding this a la carte to your existing design services, go ahead and restructure and then just build it into the cost, make it a standard practice, and increase your package pricing. So that's number one. Number two, we'll lead right into it, is build it into your design packages as a part of your standard practice. So for some context here, individual renders can range in price anywhere from $70 to about $200 per render. So you can estimate costs. I'm actually going to go forward one side real quick. You can estimate how many renders a project is going to take in a few different ways. I'll give you two. The first is the number of, you can set a number of set renders per room. And then for however many rooms, that's how you would calculate it. So maybe you decide that regardless of the size, you're going to offer 2 renders per room. let's say we do at the very low end, right? And we do $70 per render and two renders per room, right? So $140 per room. Say you have a small, 5-bedroom home or apartment, that's an additional $700 added to the existing design services, right? That's number one. So you can do it number of renders per room and then add that up for how much you're charging per render. The second way that you can do it, and do type in the chat box if you have other ways that you already work this into your design services and you want to share it with people. But another way is that you can estimate the amount of renders per space based on the square footage and then calculate the cost that way. So maybe you have a 1,000-foot square home and you decide, okay, from this range to this range of square footage, I'm going to use, 8, I'll use that, 8 renders, which I think is being conservative, honestly, for a 1,000-foot square home. And now let's say we go middle of the road at $100 per render, that's an additional $800. If you go $200 per render, you're looking at an additional $1,600 for one project, on top of all of the charge that you're already charging, right? So this is a very real way that you can add money to each design project and also add value to your customer, right? So it's worth it to them to pay this because they're walking away with this 3D photorealistic render to really bring their space to life. Once. Lastly is using 3D to close a deal by personalizing a pitch. So with this, what I would say is don't give away the milk before they've bought the cow. I hate to use that analogy, but it works here. What I would recommend, last week, if you watched our webinar, we did a webinar on how to create flat lays in Foyr Neo. And I also mentioned in that webinar that flat lays are a really nice way of baiting clients to get them to commit to buying one of your design packages. So that's what I would recommend doing here. If you're going to use 3D to close a deal, make it a flat lay because it's relatively, it's lower effort than redesigning their space and saying, look what you could have, and then kind of showing, doing all of that work prior to getting paid. So use the flat lay, render a flat lay to get that deal, to close it, and then have them pay for the full renders of your service. Okay, so next is 3 ways to make money outside of your design services. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because as a designer, as anybody really, but particularly if you're a freelancer, you want to always have that door open for multiple sources of income, right? Multiple revenue streams is always the way to go. So the first thing that I want to recommend to you guys is offer staging, virtual staging services to realtors, property developers, and even floor plan websites. So you can use Foyr Neo to make this your entire business, just virtual staging for all of these different customers, or you can have it as just like a side hustle to bring in additional revenue if the season happens to be slow. Maybe you're just getting your feet wet in the interior design business and you're not ready to take on full design projects, but you feel comfortable decorating. I've spoken to some people on that front. Maybe you're looking to build your portfolio. This is great for all of those. So one thing that I've done, reach out to realtors who are local to you first. I've dropped off my business card. You can go on those websites where they have, where you can make, the custom Christmas cards. You can make a postcard, slap your face on it, put your information right on the back, offer like a special offer for a certain amount of money off of a design consultation or whatever it may be, whatever you feel comfortable offering, and bring it to realtors and ask them to include it in the closing packages for all of their new homeowners, right? So now every new homeowner that they close with is going home with an interior design offer for your services. That's one way to kind of get your name out locally, and word of mouth. If you live in a small town like me, word of mouth is fantastic. When you're selling to realtors, rather than asking them to help you out, when you're selling to them specifically, go online and look for those homes that have been on the market for an unusually long period of time, right? The homes that need a little love. Reach out to that realtor, have some spaces that you've already rendered to show them as a, a portfolio, refer them to an Instagram page, which we'll get to in a little bit, where they can see your work and what you do. But reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to help you sell this house. Here's what I do. Here's how I can turn this blank space and give these people who don't have a vision for how to make this house work, the vision. You can pair this empty living room, and then right after that picture on your site, pair it virtually staged, and we're going to sell this house for you. This is so attractive to realtors and property developers because you're cutting costs for them and you're making money for them, right? In the same way that Foyr Neo is cutting costs and making money for you guys, your virtual staging services are cutting costs for them because the cost to have something staged in real life is far more expensive. You're either paying the stager and a photographer or an interior stylist and a photographer. You're paying for furniture insurance. You're paying for all of the prop rentals. You're paying for movers. And it requires your physical presence while all of this is happening over several days, right? So there's a lot involved with the business of physically staging a space. So you are cutting costs for them and then making them money by helping them increase sales. It also can increase the perceived value of a home when people can see what it can be, okay? Next, property developers. So I've spoken with property developers myself. They oftentimes have renders of the exterior space, say it's a high-rise apartment complex, because it's provided by the architect, but what they don't have is the interior space staged to a point where it would actually help them get people moving in and paying money to live there. So this is another place where you can, again, offer your virtual design services or your virtual staging services. Lastly, I think it's covered by this little guy. There we go. Floor plan sites. If you've ever, I'm sure you guys have been to these sites, but if you've ever gone to a floor plan site, it runs the gamut. There are floor plans that you'll click on and it'll be a simple line drawing of the exterior of the house, and that's it. And then you'll click on another floor plan and it's the line drawing. It's all of the exterior renderings, and then there's interior renderings. Which floor plan do you think gets more purchases? And which do you think they charge more for? It's the one with all the pretty extras, right? Because unlike you all who are designers, most people don't have that vision, right? They need to see it to believe it. They need to see it to form an emotional connection, and it's emotional connections more than anything that make sales. Right? So that's the value that you are providing to floor plan sites, to realtors, and to property developers. You are creating that emotional connection and that vision for their clients, and then that's making them money. Okay, so those are 3 ways that you can offer your design services as a side hustle or as a business all on its own, so that you have multiple sources of revenue coming in for you. And let me tell you, even if they don't say yes right away, I've had a property developer reach out to me 8 months down the road and say, hey, I didn't forget about you. We're ready to move forward. Can you still do this? And of course, the answer is yes. So it always comes back to you. So just get your name out there, right? Alrighty, next is offer content creation. So not very long ago, content creation was like not a job, but it is a full-blown job nowadays. I can speak for myself. It's one of the things I do for Foyr Neo. But offer your services as a content creator. Also know this, before we get into creating an Instagram page and Pinterest account, when you master a software like Foyr Neo, you are no longer just an interior designer. You are a 3D rendering artist. Write this down, because this is a, what's the word, like a trending term. If you go, and we'll talk about this in a second, on websites like Upwork and Fiverr, if you type in 3D rendering artist, this is a whole group of individuals, and you can claim that title when you master the software, right? When you can go in and create this from nothing and give people this 3D photorealistic photo of what their space is going to look like, you have become a 3D rendering artist and you increase your value to so many different people. So number one, the thing that I want you to do is create an Instagram page or a Pinterest account or both where you feature your renders. The next thing that I want you to do, not only is that going to bring you in clients, I've actually gained more clients from having an Instagram page, more design clients than I have from having a website. But reach out on Instagram or wherever it may be to certain companies that could use your services for content creation themselves. So a good example here is, and the name totally escapes me right now, we actually feature their artwork in our catalog. It's J&J something, but the point is they have an Instagram page, and one day I'm scrolling and they are they're like a boutique artwork company. That's their focus. Every few months they cycle through different artists and they have a small collection of artwork featured. And I'm scrolling and I'm looking at this post and I'm like, that's a render. And like a light bulb went off and I'm like, oh my God, they're paying somebody, they're paying a 3D rendering artist to feature this artwork rather than paying for staging or rather than paying an interior stylist and photographer to do it in person. They're saving themselves money. And this is something I can do, right? So immediately I reach out to them and said, hey, check out my Instagram page. Not only do I have access to your artwork on the software that I work for, but I'd love to work for you. And then go ahead and generate a space in Foyr Neo where you stage some artwork. Maybe it's sitting over a mantle, maybe it's sitting over a sofa, whatever it may be. And then what you can do is you can, for those of you who use this software already, you know that in 3D mode, you can upload custom textures. Take a snapshot of the artwork, upload it as a custom texture, drag and drop it to an existing print that you've resized over your mantle. And then you can just interchange the artwork and take new renders or move some furniture pieces around, change the wall color. And now you're providing content for these businesses and you're making money off of it, right? So super easy way to do that. Anything that's like a print like that is it's just such easy money for you guys because you can just upload it as a custom texture on Foyr Neo without using any credits. So keep that in mind. Lastly, what I was referring to is websites like Upwork and Fiverr. There's definitely more. This is just two examples. Allow people to post for one-off jobs and also create a profile. So here's where referring to yourself as a 3D rendering artist is really going to come in handy. Architects use these sites all the time looking for 3D rendering artists to take interior renders of the building that they have created. They provide you with all the floor plans that you need. They hire you for a one-off job and they go on their way, right? Maybe they reach back out if they're really happy with your work. Homeowners will use these websites because they need help bringing a kitchen to life that they're trying to do themselves and it's just not working, whatever it may be. So create a profile, put yourself on there as a 3D rendering artist and see what comes in. Lastly, before we get into the Q&A is to offer e-design services. So e-design is completely virtual, right? This has so many benefits. First of all, you're not limited by where you are in the world geographically. You could be like me on the East Coast designing a space for someone in California. Doesn't matter. Across the world, doesn't matter, right? So this not only makes you more accessible to people in terms of demographic, but it makes design services more financially accessible for people. And that's one of my favorite things about e-design. I think there's a level of elitism that gets attributed to interior design, to that world, and a lot of people don't think that it's a service that's accessible to them, but e-design services are changing that. So they're bringing in clients for you, and they're also just making it a service that more people can enjoy and appreciate, right? Because we all deserve to have a home that we love. And you're making that a possibility by offering e-design services for those people. Because you're able to, so I'll give you an example of one thing that I do for e-design services is I just limit my sourcing. So let me frame this out for you a little bit. So say somebody reaches out to me, they don't live anywhere near where I can travel to them. They provide you with, or me with, all of the measurements, right? I make sure that we get our ceiling height, we get our rise from floor from all of our windows. I get pictures and video. We have a design consultation via Zoom. And we kind of, do the client questionnaire, all of that we would normally do for an intake for a new customer. And then so that I can offer maybe something that's a bit more affordable for them, and this is entirely up to you, but I will just limit how much of the products I'm sourcing. So say it's a living room, and I'll say, look, I'll provide you with the information for the sofa, the rug, and the TV unit. And then you have this lovely render, and you can go out and find the rest of the pieces that fit in this space, that mimic this look, right? All the decor pieces, maybe the end tables, things like that, the lamp, the floor lamp. You go out and source those yourself, but this allows me to cut costs because I'm not spending so much time sourcing. So I'll give you some of the big items, and then you have this end product that you can take and execute it at your own financial pace, which again makes it more financially accessible for them because they're not handing over their credit card and then you're going and spending all that money all at once. And it brings in more clients as a result. And it's also just like a bit of a faster turnaround. So sometimes this is nice because while you're working on a big in-person project, you can also have a few, small living room e-design service packages coming in where you're not spending a ton of time sourcing. Okay. Foyr Neo does have a business blueprint ebook dedicated just to starting your e-design business. So I have the link here. I'll copy that and add it to the chat box for you guys so that you can check it out. Just going to ask for your email, and it's completely free. So give that a read if you're interested in e-design services. And that is what I have for you guys today. So again, follow us on Instagram, and let's get into the Q&A. Alrighty, do you recommend listing, this is Emily Stein. Hi, Emily. Do you recommend listing the renders separately from hours instead of estimating the hours it takes? Do you recommend listing the renders separately from hours? Okay, yes. Depending on the size of the project. So your pricing packages is an hourly rate. Gotcha. So one of the things about hourly rate for something like this is that as you become more proficient in the software, it's going to take you fewer hours. So as you get better, right, as you become more experienced, you're kind of earning less money if you go hourly for how long it's going to take you to get these renders. So I would recommend having a set cost for the renders or give a quote. So that you don't get burned and say, okay, my renders are $100, and then someone comes to you with this like massive room and it's way more work than just $100. You can say renders start at $100, but once I have more information about the square footage, I can then provide you with a quote. I would recommend doing that, but I would avoid an hourly rate for renders because that will decrease as you become more proficient in the software. Let me know if that answers your question. Okay, Jerry says, hi, Rachel, from Kenya. Hey, thanks for joining. Are we going to get access to this webinar later? Yes, you will get access to this. Ryan Davis at foyr.com. Email him and he will send you the webinar. And also it'll be posted on our LinkedIn page. So if you're on LinkedIn, do follow us and you'll have access to that as well. Emily again, hi. I also want to ask about importing a floor plan from an architect. So I think typically architects are providing floor plans as PDFs. Simply open it up, take a snapshot of it on your computer because it needs to be saved as an image file. So a PNG or a JPG, and then you can import it the same as you would any other floor plan. So just make sure it's saved as an image file. Anonymous, what are the top websites where we can sell our designs? So if I don't know that I quite understand. So if you're talking about just a design that you've already created and you want to sell it, I don't quite know there. I would say that what you're going to do is use your design. So you can create a design without a customer, without having a client, right? You can build a portfolio. You can go online and find floor plans, draw them out, and then design it to your liking, and then render that and use that for a portfolio on Instagram. Definitely recommend putting your designs on Instagram. I'm not sure if Upwork or Fiverr have a space where you can add a portfolio, but I would check that out as well. So it's not so much that I would say you're going to sell this particular design to somebody, but you're going to show people with your designs, with your renderings, what you can do so that then they want to hire you. Let me know if that answers your question. Okay. Next is Kelly Walker. Hi, Kelly. What do you charge for 3D walkthrough in addition to render? So that's really kind of a personal preference for you. So I think the first question that I would ask in response to this is, what do you feel comfortable offering or asking for your renders, right? We talked about that 70 to 200, not that you're limited within that range, but does 70 feel too low? Does 200 feel like way too much? Does 200 feel way too low? So start with where do you feel comfortable with your renders, and then add on from there. For the 3D walkthrough, also consider by the time you get to the 3D walkthrough, you've done all of the design work, you've probably taken your renders, right? And now you're working in a complete space. And the walkthrough is a relatively very, an easy process. You place your cameras, you head in, you change the orientation of the camera, you press generate. So definitely charge for it, but also consider that most of the work that you need for the walkthrough is already completed with all of those other services. So just think about that. Alrighty, another question. How much should I charge for rendering? Is there any particular guideline? Okay, so I'm assuming that this was maybe asked prior to that one slide, but the average for per render is anywhere between $70 to $200. So my suggestion to you would be, you're gonna have a gut reaction to that cost. If someone says you should charge this amount and you go, oh God, I could never. First of all, you're probably selling yourself short. So just keep that in mind, because we all do that, right? But also if someone says you should charge this much and you go, wait a second, I'm worth way more than that. Like, use that gut reaction to kind of guide you towards what that number should be. And then always add tax, because I guarantee myself and every single one of you is selling yourself short on what you are worth. So find that number that doesn't make you cringe one way or the other, and then add tax. And then what's going to happen, undoubtedly, here's a tip I have for you guys. If you start a website, but never put your pricing, never put a number on your website. And the reason for this is it commits you, right? So one of the kind of rookie mistakes I made early on was that I listed my pricing packages. I have, a design consultation. I have, a single room, and then I have a group of rooms, and then a bigger group of rooms, right? And I listed the services, but then I made the mistake of also listing the price. But I had just gotten started, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into in terms of the amount of work, in terms of revisions for projects, which are always going to happen, right? So I kind of burned myself, because then people saw that rate and told other people, oh, look what she charges. Or somebody saw me, 2 months ago and then didn't want my services until several months later. And then I wanted to charge them my updated charge, and they weren't happy about that because my website said this, that, and the other, right? So what I recommend doing is, don't put your pricing on your website until you've had time to really work through that. It's going to change. And when you start really doing the work for clients, if you have years and years of experience under your belt and you know exactly what your pricing is, that's one thing. But if you're getting started out and now you're offering renderings, get a feel for it first. And then what I do is when people reach out to me saying, hey, I'm interested in this package, I get some more information, make sure I fully kind of understand what I'm getting myself into, and then I give them a cost. I've also learned kitchens are a lot more work than a living room. So I have an upcharge for kitchens, right? And this is all through experience. You learn as you go. So don't commit yourself to a cost that you're going to later regret, because you're always, I guarantee, we sell ourselves short. We don't add tax. We end up doing a ton of work for our clients, right? And then we feel like, oh, wow, I really am really worth more than this. So give yourself the opportunity to grow your rate without making it such a public affair. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Let me know. And you guys are in the chat box too. So let me just. Okay, so when you say per render, are you meaning per render view in a room? Can you explain? I think I'm selling myself short. I mean per render. Yeah, not per room. So like if you have a living room and you do 2 renders for that living room, I'm not talking about per room. You could charge that way if you wanted, but take into consideration. And if you think you're selling yourself short, you are. You are, Kelly. That's a really good sign. If your gut is telling you you're doing more work for a whole lot less pay than you're getting, then the answer is yes, you are. Charge more. And a little thing that a misconception that we fall into. Hi, Abraham from South Africa. I'll get to you in just a second. But one thing that we all have a habit of falling into, I think, is I just totally lost my frame of thought there. I'll get back to it in a second. I would go per render. That thought's going to come back to me. I got distracted by South Africa joining the call, and I'll get back in just a second. What is the extension of Foyr? Oh, okay. So the Foyr model uploads for like furniture pieces need to be OBJ files, so object files. So if you work with SketchUp, I believe you can, there are free converters online where you can convert it to an OBJ. There's also a website that I use. It's not connected with Foyr in any way, but it's a safe site and it's free for you to make an account. It's called Polantis, and they offer OBJ files as well. It's not a hugely extensive library, but it's just out there and it's safe for you guys. So that's just a recommendation for you. What do you upcharge for kitchens? So again, so what you're charging, I'm hesitant to give you guys a specific number for these things because the amount of experience that you have comes into play. The ideal client that you have comes into play, right? If your ideal client is somebody who makes $1 million a year versus your ideal client is somebody who makes $50,000 per year, what you're charging, or you have 2 years of experience versus 20 years of experience, what you're charging for your services and how much you charge for that upcharge for that kitchen is going to change, right? So if you're new to the game, don't sell yourself short, right? Your talents are your talents. Your time is valuable, but also those things come into consideration. So I hesitate to give you a specific number because I don't want to limit you by giving you that number. The 70 to 200 is what's out there on the market. When we're looking at sites where people are hiring 3D rendering artists, when we're looking at sites where the whole service is e-design services, right? Because those sites are out there. That's where we're getting those numbers from, okay? So take into consideration your experience, take into consideration your ideal client. If you haven't thought about who your ideal client is, that's a good place to start. What do they look like? How much do they make? that kind of information, and that should help guide you. Dominican Republic, how's it going? Do you have a guideline on pricing renders based on square footage? So what I came up with the square footage, if you go online and you look up 1,000 square foot home, there's about, not counting the closets, that could fit a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, right? So already we're at 5 rooms, and it's Polantis with a T, to Emily. So, and then plus a kitchen and living and joint, and then a dining room, right? So that's 8 rooms. So that was what would fit in a small 1,000 square foot home. And that's how I said, okay, maybe I would offer 1 render per room. And that's how I kind of figured that out. So kind of frame it out like that. I find it's easiest to kind of mentally convert square footage into rooms and then decide how many would I want for this space. Because you might have, it's dangerous to say per room. I've learned my lesson with this because of open floor concepts, where I've had clients come to me and say, well, it's just 1 room, but it's an entryway, a dining, and a living room, but it's all open floor. There's no walls, there's no doors, so it's 1 room. Well, no, it's not 1 room, right? I'm not giving you the price for 1 room. It's 3 distinct spaces. So that's where charging by square footage comes in handy, because then you're going, okay, no, really, this is 3 rooms and I'm offering 2 renders per room. If you structure it that way, right? So then that becomes a lot more money for you, and you're just getting paid the amount that you should for a quote unquote single room. Okay. Alrighty, let me go back to the Q&A here. Hi, Rachel. Oh, you guys added this. Thank you. When you say per render, you meaning, okay. Isn't service non-taxable? Oh gosh, you know what? I don't know the answer to this question. I can find out and do some research, but I'm sorry, Betty, I don't immediately know the answer to that question about services being taxable or not. Yeah, yes. So I believe this presentation, Ryan Davis at Foyr.com will be able to share this with you as well. Alyssa. Go back to. I'm just going to scroll back up. I want to make sure. Okay, so the recording here, guys, is in the chat box if you see my screen still. So you can copy that. It's available on our YouTube channel. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. If you haven't, we have a ton of tutorials up. So if you ever get stuck on the software with something and you just want a quick answer, that's a good resource for you guys. What's your items? So Tiana, what's your uptake items required for virtual staging? I don't think I quite understand, Tiana, what you mean by uptake items. If you could just clarify that in the chat or in the Q&A, that would be really helpful. Just gonna take a look here. Oh, the blueprint is also here. Thanks, Ryan. 3D walkthrough and render in addition to renders. Oh, that's Kelly. Okay, I think I answered that question. All right, let me go back down here. So Alex says value yourself as taxable. Whether that actually means you have to add tax depends on where you live in the state. Oh, so yeah, when I say, thank you, Alex. I should have clarified that. So Betty, this might be answering your question. When I say find your price and add tax, what I mean by that is just add to that cost. So when we say add tax, like you're, because we tend to undervalue ourselves, the number that we feel comfortable at, it's safe to say is a bit low, right? So when I say add tax, I'm saying add to that amount that you're charging. And that's going to really be what you're worth, not the initial what makes you feel comfortable. So that's what I meant by that. I wasn't referring to actual tax. Go ahead, Linda. And you guys can also add to the Q&A box. I'm not sure if you see it up here, but I'll go back and forth, no worries. One moment. For a space that has a photo image, how do I upload a photo and then design space? Okay, so you cannot upload you can upload a floor plan as an image file, and then you can trace out the walls over that floor plan in 2D mode. That's going to build up your walls that you can then start designing in 3D. If you have like a photo of a sofa, there is not a software right now that can just take a 2D image and just make it into a 3D object, because we can't see the back of the sofa and the different, right? We don't know the dimensions, things like that. So there are 2 different ways on Foyr that you can upload custom models. If you are on the standard or the premium plan, you can place a model request. You'll provide a photo of the furniture piece, all of the dimensions, and then the team at Foyr will build that out as a 3D object file for you and add it to your catalog and your catalog alone. It does use model credits, which are available on your account billing information, and you get a certain amount per month on the standard and premium plan. That's number 1. Number 2 is that you can go, find an OBJ file of the furniture piece. So maybe you use something like SketchUp and you convert it to an OBJ. Maybe you go to a website like Atlantis and you find a furniture piece and download it to your computer as an OBJ file. And then you can upload it from the models. Let me see if I have a project pulled up real quick. Let's go back here. I'm just going to quickly show you where that is. Ooh. I'm freezing a little. All right, one moment. We'll get right back into that. You can go to uploads. It's on the left-hand side of the toolbar, and then you can upload it yourself for no credits used. You just have to have access to that OBJ file. Hi, Afia. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Afia. Yes. So email Ryan Davis at foyr.com. And also in the chat box, the link to this video, to this webinar, is here for you, and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. So it's right here for you as well. So go ahead and subscribe to Foyr Neo on YouTube, and you'll have access to all of the webinars that we hold. Alrighty. I love all these questions that you guys are coming up with. Okay, let's see. So Linda, I hope that answered your question. You have 2 different ways to upload 3D models. What is the best way to get furniture from vendors uploaded into Neo, say Pottery Barn, couches, etc.? So that's really just a matter of, do check out, there's multiple websites where you can get OBJ files. So Plantis is just one that I happen to use and know that is safe, so I recommended it, but there are a number. So you can always search for them there. If you cannot find them, most of the time there is something in the catalog that is very similar, and you can simply drag and drop the textures that are needed to customize it to make it look like the item. That's number 2. So just try that. It's always the easiest option. Another thing to consider, if it's something that maybe structurally looks the same, but then the hardware is not correct, do use invisible material texture. It's in the texture catalog called invisible material. Drag and drop it to that hardware. It'll make it invisible, and then you can place your own hardware from the catalog over top of it, and that's how it will render. It won't show the original. So it's kind of like a little sneaky tool that we have to customize a piece. Otherwise, if those 2 options don't work, do a model request. So you need to be on the standard or premium plan to do that, but submit a model request, and within 24 to 48 business hours, they're going to build it out for you, and it'll be available across all of your projects. Virtual staging being done within professional photos with Photoshop, especially Bankit. How would you incorporate it with Foyr? So virtual staging, I think is, I mean, I'm not, Tiana, I'm not very great at Photoshop myself, but you simply need a floor plan. So let's say it's an apartment Or you can go, if it's a local place, you can go and take the measurements yourself, take photos yourself, and then you're replicating that. You're building it out in the software and you're replicating that, you know, the paint color, the floors, the kitchen, all of that as is. And then you're adding in furniture and decor pieces. So you're not taking a photo of the kitchen and then uploading that photo onto Foyr. You're building that house up and then virtually staging it. Oh, you had a console made as a custom item. Awesome. You're welcome. So the website I mentioned, let me just type it in here. It's called Polantis.com. And it's just a safe site, not connected with Foyr in any way, but you won't be downloading any viruses. So, all right, let me go back to the Q&A real quick. Oh, we got everybody in the Q&A. Okay, cool, cool. Thank you. All righty. Well, I'll give it just another couple minutes for you guys if any more questions pop up. I'm sorry, I think it was Emily earlier. I was speaking and I totally lost my, I have mom brain sometimes kicks in real hard. So sorry, I lost my train of thought there. If it comes to me in the next couple of minutes, I'll bring it up. And if you guys have any advice for any of our listeners today, please feel free to share it as well. How can I connect with other novice renderers? That's a great question. I mean, join the Foyr community. So LinkedIn, no worries, LinkedIn, Instagram, and even our YouTube channel. We are working towards really building a community of Foyr Neo users. It's going to be launching very soon, where we are going to all be a support for one another. We can mentor one another. So that's coming very soon. But in the meantime, check us out on Instagram, comment. One of the things that I love to do is just cheer on other designers, particularly Foyr Neo designers. If you know me, you know I have a great team of coworkers that I work with who are also designers, and I love seeing them win. I love learning from them when they create something on Foyr that I didn't even think I could create on Foyr, and then I go, oh wow, like I'm gonna try that, and I reach out to them. I've had designers reach out to me saying, hey, you work for Foyr, I'm interested in the software. And then we become friends, and then we support each other, even though we're both designers, right? We're supporting each other's businesses. So just like get involved with the community. It's a really great place to meet other designers and share in that love. And when you support other people, they're so happy to support you right back. And yeah, it's really great. So that would be my recommendation to you. And there's the link. LinkedIn is nice too, because there's usually like some fun business talk on there. You can share it with other people. You can do backyards, Kelly. You can do backyards on Foyr. I think that needs to be its own webinar. Honestly, it's not something that I can show you in the next like 8 minutes. But real quickly, what I would say is, say you have a house and it's a square here. You can, in 2D mode, you can draw 4 walls around that, and then in 2D mode you can bring those walls down to 0 by setting the wall height to 0 under partial wall. I hope this is making sense to you. And then that gives you a default floor, and then you can drag and drop grass textures, trees, all sorts of stuff, and you have an outside space. You can also use like a floor docked cube and then apply a texture to it outside as well. Do sign up for one of our master classes, Kelly. myself and Bernardo and Evelyn, we all do master classes, 45 minutes long, one-on-one. So that's a really good thing that one of us could help you out with directly. And you can access that on your dashboard. Alrighty, let's see. Adding cameras in room, is there a limit? I don't believe that there's a limit for those. We are just about closing up now. So I would recommend, you can always select add camera on the walkthrough feature at the top center. There's an option to add cameras and then you can move one in. If it's preventing you from doing that and you really want it, you can also reach out to customer support on the bottom bubble and they can add in things for you from the back end. But if you'd like a tutorial specifically on the walkthrough, Afia, again, just like Kelly, go ahead and sign up for a free masterclass so that one of us can work with you one-on-one to help you with that project specifically. You can even screen share and we can talk our way through it. Okay. All righty. So also, for those of you who are not already members, if you're interested in using the software, head to foyr.com and try our 14-day free trial. It does not require a credit card, just your email address, and give us a try. Alrighty. The masterclass is free. If you are a member, you have access to a one-on-one masterclass forever, and it's always complimentary. You watch a video on patios and decks. All right, we should do a webinar on this. In the meantime, Alex, also sign up for that free masterclass and we'll work on that. But we are also working on adding those tutorials, I think, to our YouTube channel soon. There was a webinar last week on creating flat lays, so head to our YouTube channel and you can watch that. That is to Katrina. Alex, can you share the link here for the masterclass? There's no cost. There's no cost to the masterclass. It's one of the many reasons I love Foyr. We have such fantastic free support for you guys. So either myself, Bernardo, or Evelyn are going to sit down with you one-on-one and give you that masterclass for free. Yep, and the masterclass is available, thank you, Ryan, in the Foyr Neo dashboard. So go to your dashboard, top right-hand corner, it's gonna say like book demo. That's what we're talking about, book demo. And here is the link to the 14-day free trial for those of you who are not already members. Do give us a try, no credit card required. Thank you, guys. Oh, sorry, I'm a little slow in the chat. Alrighty, and here is also the link for the flat lay tutorial. Alrighty, we are going to sign off in just a second. Thank you guys so much for all of your questions and for joining us today. Stay safe for those of you who are in hurricane territory and enjoy your long weekend. Goodbye, everybody.